Hello guys, in this session I'm going to show you how to configure an overview page floor plan application. So in the previous session we have created quite a few WebDenPro component that can participate in the FPM event loop, and in this session I'm going to use them to construct the overview page floor plan application. Typically what we do when we create an WebDenPro component to execute them, what we does is we create application to the component, and this application is the one that is going to trigger the WebDen Pro component, and it is going to render our layout, right? So, but now what I am going to do is I am going to use the floor plan manager to construct my layout instead of me directly executing my WebDen Pro application. So what I would do is I will create an application for overview page floor plan manager component. This is again a WebDen Pro component, so I will be creating an application to this particular component which will makes this application to execute this particular overview page floor plan manager component, right? But how I'm going to ask this component to display my WebDen Pro component in it. So this floor plan manager component are basically the layout generators. Okay, they are created for the purpose of creating a beautiful layouts. So what this component does is they only create the layout, and what is the content that should appear in this layout? That is going to come from the application configuration. So the application that I'm going to create it will trigger this component, and the application configuration that I'm going to provide, that will provide with information to this component that this is the WebDen Pro component you have to load, and this is the view and window that you have to show. Now let's go ahead and create an application for the OVP component. Okay, so CWT underscore OVP underscore demo. OVP demo application. Right. So choose the interface view as FPM window and the plug as default, and click on save. Now locate your application in the application browser. So the application that we have created is ZWDA underscore OVP underscore demo one. Okay, so we have our application over here. Now this application is going to trigger this OVP underscore FP underscore OVP component, but that is not what we needed. We wanted this component to be executed, and then this in turn executes our WebDen Pro component and load the views. So in order to specify that information, I'm going to create an application configuration to this particular application. So you can create n number of application configuration for a application. So in the parameters tab, you have to specify the default application configuration ID which has to be picked. So whatever is the configuration the ID that you're going to provide, that configuration is going to be executed, and what is the information that you have specified in it, and that will be displayed as such. Okay, now to create the configuration, just right click on the application and click on create or change configuration. So this is going to open up your browser, and in the browser you have your application name, and just specify the name for the configuration, and then click on create to create the configuration. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have the same name as the application. I'm just going to append the value apg, sorry, okay, I'm just going to specify the value app in order to make it to understand that this is an application configuration for this particular application. So click on create, and this is going to create your application configuration. Now when you create an application configuration, the application configuration is actually going to be created for the component for which you have created the application, right? So what happened? Okay, so enter the description, application configuration, local object, and click on okay. Right, like I have been telling you, the application configuration will be creating configuration for the component which the application belongs to. Now what I'm going to do is the component application configuration, I'm going to create a component configuration using which I'm going to modify the way that FPM component executes, and I'm going to provide the information to the FPM component like what are the views and windows it has to display. So the application configuration whatever I create is basically for the component that my application execute. Now inside this component I wanted to make some changes, so I'm going to specify the component configuration. So I'm going to use the same name as the component, except that I'm going to use the addition CFG at the end to specify this is a component configuration. So once you select this, click on go to component configuration. Now what it is going to do is it is going to check for the configuration if it is available. In case if it is not available, it is going to ask me to create, or if it is available, it is going to directly go inside the configuration. So here it throws me an error that the configuration is not available. So just name it and click on create. So it's taking quite some time. Component configuration and put it in local object. Okay, so we have our component configuration created with the default page. So just go on and add an UIBB to it. Just choose the section, and in the section add the UIBB. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this application into two sections. In the first section I'm going to have the interface view from component 1 and the interface view from component 2, and in the second section I'm going to have the interface view from the component 1, right? So I have just created an UIBB, and I just have to specify the information on what is the WebDyn Pro component that I have to load, which is ZWDC underscore FPM1, and I'm going to choose for the available UIBBs in that, which is main and window. So I'm configuring the main view. Then here the sequence index represent in which particular sequence this has to be displayed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In that way you can order it. Now if the content of your application is going to be stretched overall, and if you wanted your UIBB also to be stretched, then you can say that UIBB needs surrounding container to be stretched. In other case, by default it is not going to be stretched. Then while you are going to display your UIBB, you can either display it with the panel or without the panel. And if you're going to check this collapsed option, then what it is going to do, your UIBB is always going to be in a collapsed mode, and when you click on the arrow mark over here in the right hand side, only then it is going to show you the values, right? So you have just added one UIBB in this particular section, and now I wanted to add another UIBB. So I have added another UIBB, and this is going to come from ZWDC underscore FPM2, and I have added the interface view. Now if you see here, the sequence is going to be 2 because this is the sequence 1 and this is the sequence 2, right? Now save it, go to the page and add a new section. So in the section 2, I'm going to configure my third UIBB, which is again coming from the first WebDyn Pro component that we have developed. Now, one thing that you have to notice is that within the same screen, you will not be able to place the main view again, right? So because it is already been rendered over here. Now, if I ask it to render it again over here in the third section, then what it is going to do, it is going to throw me a dump because the layout would have been generated already with the specific IDs. Now, when here it is going to generate, it is going to generate with the same ID obviously, and it is going to end up in dump or error. Okay, so in this application we just have only one component view, sorry, only one interface view which is okay, only one interface view which is remaining, and we have added that. So let me save the application. Go to the page section, and here actually in the page section you can choose to determine that the page that whether I'm going to say is going to be a main screen, or it is going to be an initial screen, or it is going to be some other type of page, or it is going to be displayed as a dialog and other things, right? And the page title that you can provide here as overview page floor plan. Okay, right. So just save the application, and in order to test the application, go back to the application configuration. In some of the latest versions of FPM, you can find the test button there, straight there in the component configuration itself. So I am pretty much using a older version, which is why I I am not able to have the test button over there. Now if you see here, this comes with the default FPM button, and the two interface view has been marked in the panel, whereas my last interface view it's not there in the panel. So let me just go ahead and check why it was not there in the panel. So if you check in the attributes of section UIBB 3, it's going to be without panel, which is the reason why it was not configured properly. And for the button close, this comes, it has to be in the toolbar. No. Okay, so we will see that in the later applications. Fine. So that's it with the configuration of a overview page floor plan. So you can also arrange it in the form of tiles like 1, 2, 3, and 4. I would request you to explore the options, attribute options that are available, and then you can play around with it to get the desired layout. Thank you. In the next application, we will be seeing how to configure GAF application. Thank you.